Dan Burn maybe not as useless as we thought at left back. The importance of Sean Longstaff and Callum Wilson definitely offering us something different and also something very important this season. There was plenty of talking points from what just felt like a massive relief to get over the line and get 3 points on the board, and that's exactly what we did. That was the main positive, but still, with a gritty game like that after 3 defeats in a row, there was plenty to talk about before we all jet off to Milan on Thursday. Oh, I said I wasn't going to sing it. Newcastle fans, it's the last word, so do me a favour, make sure you stick around. Welcome back to the black, the white and the banter, you lovely Newcastle fans. And I can say, hope you're having a great day and a great week whenever this might get posted, because we're back to winning ways. So yes, it might not have been the most glamorous performance. It might not have been a game that you're going to tell your grandkids or your kids about or your great-great-grandkids in years to come. But we got a win. And when you've lost 3 matches in a row, as Eddie Howe said in his press conference, which I totally agreed with, that's one of the most important things. Newcastle fans though, before we get into the last word and some of the hot topics, do me a favour, if you are new around here, or if you're not, if you're one of my lovely current subscribers, give us a little like. One of these goes a very long way, or a likey loo as I like to call it. And if you like my opinion by the end of this video, whack that subscribe. Now trust me when I say this, I'm not even blagging your head. I am literally, once I've finished recording this video, about to leave the door to go to the airport to go to Milan. I just wanted something that I could edit because I've got a lot of spare time to kill at one of the airports on the route that I'm doing. So I am sat in my airport attire with my bag packed and my phone just charging, ready to leave after I've recorded this video. So there is going to be plenty of Milan content coming. And I tell you what, I am soft as shite, can I just say. I've just had to wave Maggie, my beloved best mate and wing woman, off to the dog sitters who she's only really met once. I had to change person, and my God, I couldn't even watch her drive off. I am definitely getting softer as I am getting older, so I just had to get in the house, forget about her. She's in good hands. She literally goes everywhere with us. The only place she can't go is football matches. Otherwise, I would have had her nose in an ice cream and a pizza slice in the Cathedral Square in Milan, or even walking down the catwalk on Fashion Week. So that's done now. I can look forward. She's in good hands, Matthew. She's in good hands. And we can all go to Milan on Thursday. I cannot wait. But, yes, let's get into it. Whilst it's still hot in the minds before Milan takes over our brain cells, the Moretti will probably take over mine in the process. Let's get on to Saturday and Brentford. Now, it wasn't pretty. And my match vlog, normally I'd bounce over to fans at the end of a win and ask who the man of the match was, what the main positives were. It wasn't one of them post matches for me. It was more, win was the most important. Where can we still improve? And that's where my brain still is from a performance like that. We stopped the rot. And I tell you what, I said before this could be a good springboard, and the way that we just managed to get over the line on Saturday, I think could do even more good, because I could just feel the relief in the stands. I said straight after the game that I felt something in the second half. Anthony Gordon getting his name chanted in the corner, players chasing down balls, Bruno putting in a pretty brutal tackle in the second half with a bit of grit and getting a yellow card. There was a fire in the bellies to get over the line, because they'll be pissed off that we've been losing games. They'll see the noise on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, what the journalists are saying, what the papers are saying, and we weren't very good at Brighton. And that came to an end. And yes, Brentford, I knew were going to be a difficult team to play against, and so it proved. But we did get over the line and get 3 points. And I tell you what, if Newcastle fans from some quarters had been offered 6 points from our first 5 games that included Man City, Brighton away and Liverpool, you wouldn't have said that was the worst start in the world. Better than last season, and we finished 4th last season. So plenty of positives. But what were the main talking points? That's what I like to try and do on this video. Well, first up for me, an honourable shout out to Mr. Dan Burn. I thought Dan Burn on Saturday didn't really put a foot wrong, and he solidified what I think a lot of us know. It's just he's come under a lot of stick in the last couple of matches because he's been playing different positions. He was moved to centre-back against Liverpool when we conceded at the end. He played against Brighton at centre-back and didn't play great. But that was just because Sven Botman was injured. In my opinion, our defence didn't look great at all. But Dan Burn at left-back, you know what you are getting. I thought he won everything in the air, as you'd maybe expect. He doesn't offer much going forward, but I thought his ball distribution was good. always played the safe option, and Barnes showed for that quite a lot. He was good in the tackle. He just did his job. And that's what you're going to get with Dan Burn. There has to be some pluses to not playing an attacking left-back who's up the other end of the pitch at every opportunity. And I think Dan Burn offered us something on Saturday that originally, I will admit and hold my hands up to, I was worried about in the pace that Brentford had. He wasn't exposed too much at all, because I think his positioning was good. His solidarity in the tackle, and just his grit, and he's just playing the nice simple pass. Sometimes the nice simple pass is good to see. So after a tricky couple of weeks, I think it's fair to say, in Dan Burn's world, fair play to him. And what we have in our left-back options are all very different. Matt Targett, I'm still trying to figure out, because he's been out the team so long, I'm trying to remember what exactly he's maybe best at. I think he's a steady Eddie. He can get forward a little bit more than Dan Burn, but in the last couple of matches he hasn't looked good. Hall, we know we are getting someone who is comfortable with both feet but likes to get forward. Really good with the pass, but he will offer us pace on that left-hand side when Eddie Howe decides to eventually deploy him. So definitely honourable mention to Dan Burn. Maybe more of a solid look to that left side after that performance against the gritty Brentford than what we maybe thought going into Tuesday. Next up for me, one of the big talking points was Sean Longstaff. Now, I don't think Sean Longstaff should be judged too much of that performance. If there's one thing he's proved in his time with Newcastle so far, like any player really, he needs time to get going. He hasn't played much football at all. He didn't even play much pre-season, if my mind serves me correctly. Even in America, he didn't play very much. He's going to need to get up to speed. But I honestly believe we saw a better Bruno, particularly in the second half yesterday, because Sean Longstaff was on the field. Bruno, and I think Tonali will be exactly the same, just has a little bit more freedom. He doesn't have to check his shoulder all the time. He doesn't have to make a deliberate effort to sit in. And I thought Bruno in the first half was very stagnant, like what we've seen. Not quite with it. But the second half, we saw a bit of grit. We saw a little bit more freedom for him. He was passing the ball around in little pockets of space. He was spreading it out to Almiron when he came onto the pitch on the right-hand side at every opportunity, and he looked a little bit better. I think it's fair to say in the first half he should have actually scored. But I do believe that Sean Longstaff, and this is the big important factor for me on this video, Joe Linton, we are led to believe, has got a knee injury, which I'm gutted about. He's one of my favourite players, and Joe Linton, when he's firing, is so integral to what we do. If Joe Linton is to be out for 2, 3, 4 weeks, for me, Longstaff has to stay in the team. And I mean at AC Milan, I mean at Sheffield United next Saturday, because if you take Joe Linton out, you take Longstaff out, and you say, for example, with Willock still injured, you play Bruno, Tonali and Anderson, that doesn't cut the mustard in that central defensive area for me. It doesn't. So Longstaff for me at the moment, with Joe Linton's injury in mind, picks himself. And I'm not saying he pulled up any trees on Saturday, but what we saw was a slightly better Bruno, who had actually just been on international duty and had to travel back from Brazil. Is that a coincidence? I don't think it is, because we saw Bruno firing at all cylinders last year in a team that Longstaff played in every week. So Longstaff is certainly not at his best. He's going to need game time, but he's important. He is important, and he highlighted that for me yesterday. And with Joe Linton out, wow, does that man suddenly, I think, come to one of Eddie Howe's first names that he thinks of when he's picking his team. Next up, a big talking point, again, as he stole the limelight, as he likes to do, the big handsome bastard, Mr. Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson came back in on Saturday, and I think he showed exactly what we have different in our two striking options. Isak has looked very isolated the way we've started this season, because I don't think the link up between our midfield and our first three has been very good at all, and that's a problem that we need to continue working on. But what Callum Wilson did very well yesterday was held his own with his back to goal. He allowed people to come into the game. He was isolated in the first half, but we in the first half weren't very good. Second half we picked up, we sort of picked it up a little bit and cranked it up a notch and looked like scoring in spells. And I thought Wilson was putting himself about. He was winning free kicks. His back was to goal quite a lot, but he didn't have to put himself about. And the confidence in that penalty to put it top bins pretty much like he did in a high pressure situation with a team that hasn't won in 3 and lost 3 in a row was brilliant. And I do think him and Isak are so different. And I said before the match that I don't think Isak should be a player that's dropped. And I stand by that because I wanted him on the left-hand side. I didn't think Saturday was the game for Barnes, and I'll stand by that statement. But him and Wilson are very, very different players. And I think to go into a game like AC Milan at the San Siro, it's nice to have options of both. There's even an argument to play both, with Isak being rested on Saturday in the San Siro. Callum Wilson for his goal poaching style of play, but also how he can hold the ball up a little bit more if we are under the cosh. And we will be under the cosh at the San Siro. And Isak on the left for his trickery and his ability to really, really take on one or two players. And he also knows where the goal is. So there's an argument to play them both, but what we're realising more and more and more, and I think a lot of us already knew that, is both are very important to our season. And Callum Wilson, no better way to mark signing a new one-year contract. And long may this form, but also this lack of injuries, continue. Now, I certainly don't want to end on a negative, but was that performance the Newcastle that we know under Eddie Howe? No. But what I noticed as a final point is squad rotation was in play there, and we're not used to it. To see 5 changes from one Premier League game to another is quite unheard of, and that's me talking about my life as a Newcastle fan. It's quite unheard of unless injuries have forced these changes. But we are playing in the Champions League. Then we've got the Carabao Cup against Man City. Then we've got a league campaign where we're looking to maybe stay around the top 6. Squad rotation is becoming important, and Barnes coming in is a good option. Elliot Anderson, although I didn't think he was great, he's only going to get better. He's an option who can hold his own, as I think he proved yesterday. You've got Almiron, Gordon, Murphy, who hasn't even had a sniff yet this season, Willock when he comes back, Joe Linton. These are all positions and players. Hall, Livramento, who haven't even had a sniff yet. We might not like to see squad rotation, and I don't, because I think when you get in a rhythm in the Premier League, to suddenly have a different player, like, for example, Byrne never really playing with Barnes starting a match. Yes, in training, but that's very different. It does cause a bit of unrest in terms of flow of the style of play. But that's why I think we have to be patient as fans. We really do. And I always have Eddie Howe's back. But if Eddie Howe is going to continue to rotate, which I expect him to, so we can manage this workload, you cannot expect 5 changes every week and us to play exactly the same way. Has the intensity been there so far this season? I'm not so sure. Has our creativity in terms of shots at goal and expected goals per game been there? No, and that's still a massive concern for me. But do I think we will start to click? Yes, I do. And wouldn't it be nice if that happened at the San Siro? But I just wanted to make the point that squad rotation is very important. Any big club rotates the squad. Look at Liverpool, they seem to make changes every week. Do they go Nunes? Do they go Jota? Do they go Diaz? Look at Man City, and I know they're a different animal, the squad rotation they have there. To become a big club, you cannot expect to rely on 11 players and then a couple of bit-part substitutes. It doesn't work like that in football at the highest level, and we need to get used to that, but we also need to appreciate that bedding those players into different systems. So Dan Burn learning to play with Barnes, Trippier learning to play with Gordon on the right, is not going to happen overnight, and I do think that caused a bit of a bland performance on Saturday, the fact that those changes were made. But that's because Eddie Howe has a plan to bring some of the other guys back in for AC Milan. I've got no doubts about it. Your Tonali's and your Isaks. So if you'd have said to any Newcastle fan, what did you want from Saturday, you would have said a win. After 3 defeats, you wouldn't have talked about performance. You wouldn't have said, I want to see goals and this and that. You would have said a win, first and foremost. We got that. It wasn't the prettiest, but we have a springboard now to move on to one of the biggest matches in our recent history. I don't think any Newcastle fan going into AC Milan is going to be devastated if we get beat. But we do want to start the group well. We don't want to be the whipping boys of this group. And we've got Sheffield United away next week. Let's almost restart our season after that gritty performance where we were very, very sound defensively as well. Let's move on from it and let's go in to this match as I'm just about to leave for the airport. Enjoy Turin, enjoy Milan, enjoy the beers, enjoy the pizza, enjoy celebrating as fans where we have come in an unexpected amount of time and give them a right good game. Plenty of reasons to be positive, Newcastle fans, but also plenty of things to work on. Let me know your thoughts on Brentford in the comments. If you are going to Milan and you're going to the airport soon like I am, let me know in the comments because I want to meet as many fans for a lovely cold beer or two in the lovely Italian sun as possible. Next time you see me, it might be at Newcastle Airport. Away, lads!